Batman, Bruce Wayne, the Caped Crusader, the Dark Knight, no matter the moniker, the character created by artist Bob Kane and writer Bill Finger back in 1939 is quite probably the most well-known and recognizable superhero in the world. His first appearance may not have been in a series titled with his name, but it was in a very appropriately named title, Detective Comics, issue number 27. Appropriate, as Batman is known as the world's greatest detective and became the central focus character in the series, among several other series through the more than 8 decades of the existence of the Batman character. Though there are countless different suits, symbols, cowls, many different color combinations, ear sizes, utility belts, thanks to the people at Mezco Toys, we get a chance to celebrate the golden age look of the true man behind the mask of billionaire playboy Bruce Wayne. Today, we get to celebrate the golden age of the Batman. Hey everyone, my name is Jonathan, aka JK of JK Collects, and remember, I'll be posting new videos at least twice a week, if not more. If that sounds of interest to you, please click that like button and subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. And in this episode, we are taking a closer look at the Mezco Toys 1/12 Collective Golden Age Batman Caped Crusader Edition. All right, hey everyone, and welcome back. And here we have it, the Mezco 1/12 Collective Golden Age Batman, the Caped Crusader Edition. Very excited. This just came in today. Got it from Big Bad Toy Store. I'm sure it can be picked up from a lot of other places, but there it is. Came just like this in this little baggie. So without further ado, let's take a little tour here on what's the front, what's the back, right? I guess we decide. All right, so here's the flap. So we'll say this is the back. Nice pose of Golden Age Batman, looking, got the hands on the hips pose. Over on the side a little bit more, like some good black and white art, right? Just kind of that classic style. Nothing really on the bottom or the top. Pose, play, display. 1/12 Collective. And there's old Batman running after you, and that just classic logo with the face and the wings, right? So these kind of look like fixed wings, almost like the original concept by Bob Kane, right? Because it was designed after one of the Leonardo da Vinci concepts from way back in the day. He had fixed wings that stuck out and looked more like just bat wings as they were spread, and I believe it was Mr. Finger that suggested it become a cape, right? All right, so let's bust into this now that we've already toured around it, got it out of the plastic, and let's pull this tray out. Already looking very cool. Okay, so almost empty box. Look at that. There's our nice little pamphlet. Okay, so some instructions, rebreather, okay. Now we've got an empty box, so we'll put that to the side, and we'll keep tabs of that. Here we've got a nice little pamphlet. Welcome to the 1/12 Collective. Very neat. I always like just the little extra touches like that. So there we go. Stand underneath. Look at that. A little grapple batarang with string attached to it. All right, let's take this layer off and take a look at it. All right, so this is mostly stand. We will pull this accessory off so that we can take a closer look at it. I don't really pull the stands out because, they're stands. There's not much more to them. I do appreciate that it has the Batman logo and a little foot peg for him to go into, and the part that holds him up is quite substantial. And here's a little bag. That's neat. This is the first 1/12 Collective that I've had. This is like maybe a storage bag or something to keep all the little pieces from running away or losing them, or that may have an entirely different purpose that I will learn about as I go through this, or maybe somebody will correct me in the comments, which again, I love it when that happens because I get to learn and I'm all for that. Alright, so we got little pieces just flopping out everywhere, and all the more reason to potentially have that little Ziploc bag. Lots of little pieces attached to string. I love it. Little bat bolos and whatnot. That one's pretty stiff. That's like a bat garrote maybe. Alright, so let's pull Batman out, coated in lots of plastic. You don't want to eat that. Lots of hands. There's a down cowl. Okay, I'm getting a little nervous the way things are just flying out here. Oh, yep, there we go. Okay, I'm just gonna dump and give it a little tap, and that seems like it has cleared that tray. So there we go. One thing to be mindful, a good heads up, right? So stuff is ready to come flying out. There's not really anything holding it in. I always complain about the like McFarlane having all the little elastics holding things in place, and then here stuff just comes flying out. So several different heads with this. Let me pop these all out of their little individual wrap plastics. and so that we can take a closer look at them. See this pile of stuff that just came with it. Very cool. I am excited to dig through all this stuff and to look at it all closely with you. So several masked heads, right? Different bat emotions going on here. So let's line these up so we can just have them ready to view, and we'll just work our way down. So here's just a nice little regular old grimace, right? Let me bring the lights down, see if we can see some more detail. We definitely don't need it quite as bright for the paler skin that this seems to be constructed of. All right, and I need to mess with the focus as usual. Let's go manual so that we can be nice and close. There we go. Okay, so just by looking at it, pretty simple, right? It's that thing that kind of teeters. It's on the comic book end, you know, kind of cartoony, comic booky, which is what one would expect from something like this, right? This is the Golden Age version of Batman, so it's going to be comic-y. What I do like, things that I see that are standing out here, and I assume this is probably going to be across all the cowls, is that, right, the way that it's done, the separation where you can see it lifting off between the transition of the nose to the cheek, like it normally would in real life, right? It's got the expression sculpted into the mask, right? Because this should be a pretty hard piece that would, you know, protect the old head. So we've got the angry eyebrows sculpted in there. The white eyes seem to be painted quite nicely. It seems like they are covering all the points that they're supposed to from that sculpt. The teeth, individual on there, individually sculpted. They are painted all the way across white. There's no kind of odd highlight in there. And it's always kind of a risky approach to put any kind of highlight between teeth that are together like that, right? Because sometimes it can almost make it look like there is a problem with the teeth, gingivitis or something like that. But paint apps and everything look very, very clean so far on this. I am not seeing any issues. Just an all-around great-looking, basic, simple Batman head, and that's really all it needs to be. And here he is a little bit more calm, looking a little bit more, yeah, I mean, this is just a very calm face, not a lot going on. But same basic idea, right? So there we've got the nose, very well sculpted, by the way. I mean, you can see the individual nostrils, and we're able to go up in there just a little bit, which that's what's important with a figure, right? Nostrils. But that little bit of separation where the mask is lifting off, just those tiny little details, I am already very impressed. Like I said, this is my first dive into a Mezco 1/12 scale collective, and this is very well done. There's no issues that I'm seeing with paint. If there's something that I'm missing and you see it, point it out, because I would love to see it. No pun intended, as I was messing with the ear. This thing just looks great. Let's look at the next one. What a smug look he's got right there. Just a little, we'll call it the bat grin, right? This one interesting with the lips. I mean, I guess the other ones kind of had it, but this one a little bit more, that peach tone is showing through just a little bit more. I don't know if you can see it. But like with the other ones, you know, there just wasn't as much on there, it seemed like. So for some reason, that's just standing out a little bit more. I like that the eyebrows, you know, although these wouldn't be able to move in real life, they are. You've got this one kind of up a little bit and this one down to match the eye, to match the angle of the face. It just gives it a little bit more life, a little bit more character, right? Impossible in real life, but neat to see it, you know, because we're dealing with a comic book. In the comics, it would happen because you've got to be able to show that expression even though there is a mask. So there's a little bit of suspension of disbelief there. Same quality, same very accurate paint apps. I'm so very impressed. Let's check out old Brucey boy, Bruce Batman. You know, it may be a concept for his original last name, Batman. But no, they went with Wayne. So there he is, very good, and you know, very obvious. It looks very much like it is the same face underneath, right? So this same lower part is definitely identical, almost sculpt to it. Let's look at the plain face. Yeah, it's a lot closer match. That's good to see, right? Because there could be the time where they were sculpted differently, so they didn't even look like they were the same face. He looks a little bit older, right? Definitely an older look. It's got the wrinkles on the forehead, but you know, no wash to the hair. But it's a good look. I would say this is a good Bruce Wayne, right? He's got the blue eyes, very well painted, tiny thin black lines to separate it up there and round out the eyes. Just no issues, and I'm just amazed by this. Even the slight waviness in the hair, which implies, you know, spots where different parts of hair are growing out of the head, because it's not a straight line. Here it's kind of depicted that way, but up here it's not, and it's usually a lot less straight up across the top. So Very well done. I look forward to looking closer at all these other... Okay, let's bring this stuff in. We've got a lot of hands here, so lots of different ones to choose from. Let's see if we can match them up together. So there's an open hand. We've got 2 chop hands, or flat hands, flying through the air hands. Here's 2 grip hands. So here are 2 kind of like weapon grip hands. So we'll bring these for us, and so we've got it on manual. So we can kind of take a little basic black, right? Nothing special needs to be done because these are in gloves, right? So they're in black gloves. So this isn't one of those moments where I could say, hey, this could benefit from having a little bit of an extra wash on it. But no, it can't, because that would take away from the fact that it's supposed to be a black leather glove. And I can just tell with the costume, it's a clean Batman. It's not a hardened, been out there fighting crime all day and maybe needs to swap the suit out or clean it up. It's a very clean presentation. So there we go. And you can see like the subtle sculpt of the fabric wrinkles in there, along with the bulges of like the hand features, whether it's musculature or... Totally lost that one. Good thing these are identical, just different hands. So we've got the musculature of the hand along with some of the wrinkle of the glove. So very cool on that. And all of them seem to carry over that same quality of sculpt. So here we have a kind of just a more neutral hand, right? Additional for posing. And here's a cool one for like flying through the air, you know, and just ready to reach out and grab something as he's swinging, holding the rope from the other hand. Or casting a spell. You know, you never know. Batman's done a lot of stuff. This right here, a belt buckle. Very interesting. With, it looks like the little communicator or something going on in there. I'm interested to see more about that as we dig into it. There is the loose cowl that will go with the Bruce head. Right, very nice. Nicely, like, it's got a nice draped, soft look to it, like it was just pulled down. And it is from a rubberized plastic, so it's not going to be too fragile or too much of an issue when moving it up and down. Okay, so let's look at some of these little bat pieces. So we've got several different, what appears to be models or versions of batarangs in here. So there's this one, kind of like a more just basic squared off bat emblem. We've got this little dude here that spreads out. Right, so very cool. And I hope that I learn more about these. I hope that I'm wrong in just calling them batarangs. I hope I'm being very basic. And I see more as we go through the figure. And then here is a larger, more arched one, much more of a boomerang shape to it, right? All of them in that silver color, very well done. The casting looks very clean, not a lot of casting flash. And it has a very metallic look. I don't know if you can see that, just kind of showing through the way that it's done. It definitely looks like it could be a metal piece if I wasn't sitting here telling you it was plastic. So very well done on that. And then we've got, here's the breather that we saw on that mini pamphlet, talking about how it applies, right? So the breather tension fits into mouth of default closed mouth head. So there we go. Must be the one that comes on the figure. But there we go. There's our nice little breather. What a fun little unnecessary gadget to include in there. And well done, right? It is of that same gray plastic that the batarangs were done. Now this will be a moment where I'd say, hey, it wouldn't have hurt it to have a little bit to help make these lines pop, or even these grates in here, just a little bit of black or some other color. Okay, now we keep going. Here is the a little bit. It's more like a thicker plastic, like a nylon or something. It's not stretchy, but it's like a nylon for this. I want to say a bolo. Right, and maybe this is one form of it where it's like holding and better for posing because it's a more stiff plastic, because there's also the same thing but with just a regular string between the two, so it's a lot more flexible. So maybe this is to wrap around someone, and this is potentially to make it look like he's swinging it and getting ready to throw it. Or this is a bat garrote and things just got really dark. Who knows? Okay, so let's open up these little plastic ones that have the batarang with the, now this one is that thicker nylon type string, right? A little bit thicker gauge plastic with yet another style of quote unquote batarang, right? So here's the similar looking one, but this one has the individual wing lines on it. Very neat. And then at the end is just plain string, right? So we might need to tie that to something for posing or what have you. And my guess is this is the same thing, but with just standard black string, because yep, and it is. So we've got 2 options there, right? So same thing. One of them has the thicker nylon, and this is just like your standard almost like a sewing string, right? Just a little bit thicker version of a standard sew, or really almost this basic. You might want to check those knots and make sure they're properly tied. But that is the same quote-unquote batarang type style that is on the nylon one. So they seem to clearly be there to serve the same purpose, just maybe at different versions or levels of pose, which is, hey, I'm cool. That's where we check the pictures for reference from the manufacturer. Look how nicely this thing is protected, right? I almost feel bad taking it out, like just touching it is violating it. But let's pull old Bats out of his plastic tray. We've got another do not eat to help protect the leather cape we've got underneath. Very cool. And then more plastic on this leather cape. And just already touching it, we do have wire right here. Wire all throughout, actually. So there's more right here in this seam. More. So we've got one wire here, none there, none there, one in the middle. And then, so every other seam is wire. How fantastic is that for pose? Look at that. This thing is ready to just, it would be great if I had, focus, right? This thing is just ready to be billowed out, which is great because it's going to be out of our way. So we can take a closer look at old Bats. Here is our default neutral head. Still looking pretty aggressive, looking pretty stern, ready to go. Not entirely different from this one, right? Almost the same. This one just looks a little bit happier, right? The mouth curls up just a little bit more or stays a little more flat. This one goes down. But let's check out some flexibility. How about side to side? Not bad, right? So side to side, not terrible at all. And it feels very solid in doing so. Up and down, that's definitely beyond what straightforward would be. And same. We don't have chin to chest, but we do have a pretty solid downward look, especially when compared to a lot of other figures. And it seems the neck is attached to the torso. But you can see the cowl, they made a separation there to just kind of show, to give that little bit of extra depth of detail and realism to not just have it attached right there. It looks like it is truly separate and being worn. And I'm assuming this must be on one of those double ball or barbell dumbbells, whatever you want to call it. But it does give the ability for that. What? Full-on exorcist? I mean, that is truly the mark of quality, if you ask me. But here in the shoulder, it doesn't seem like we have a butterfly joint, but I think that's okay, right? Because we've got decent flexibility. It does go up. I imagine it does have rotation capabilities, but we don't want to push it too much, right, because of the costume. It kind of keeps posing a little bit more natural, I guess. But we do have bicep-tricep rotation, so we do have that capability, and it doesn't seem like it's hindered. I'm going to go ahead and pull it a little bit farther than maybe you would want to, because of the costume, but it's definitely not hindered because it's a very rounded shoulder with that. Even though it's curved, it does not get in the way. This is a double elbow just by looking at how it bends. Pretty good flexibility, right? If I push farther, it will go, but it wants to bounce right back. Do not have forearm rotation, although it does give the illusion because this gauntlet does move. And I'm curious of whether it would slide off if one of the hands was popped off. But we do have good wrist removal. So wrist removal, not hard, and also adding it back on is not difficult, as we saw. But we do have good wrist wiggle, right? So this is right up there with the McFarlane wiggle. Sorry, people at Mezco, if you see that and you don't want me comparing it to McFarlane. It does have that good wiggle. However, if I go too far, the wrist does want to easily pop off. So there's not much in here as far as holding it in place. There's a little bit of a raised bit, but it doesn't seem like it's enough if I push too far. See, it just pops right off. But it does go back on easily. Some of the other figures that are like this, different ones, it's not so easy to get it back on because that pin wants to travel. So I appreciate that that's not doing it. Same flexibility over here. We can see the bicep tricep break. And you can see the wrist wiggle. It does have that same capability. But definitely be gentle and careful with that one. Otherwise, the hand will pop right off. But that's okay because we got a bunch of hands to choose from. But that doesn't mean we want to lose any of them. Mid-torso, yep, we've got pretty good crunch right there moving around. Back, doesn't really go back too much beyond what good posture would be. Forward is pretty good, though. So it's good for some flying through the air, odd poses. Waist rotation, we do have that, but it feels like it pulls on the costume, right? So we can turn a little bit, but not much further than what a natural human turn would be. So that's fine. The belt kind of floats. I will say, just looking at it, I don't know if I'm making it up, but can you see it just kind of looks like the yellow paint from the quality of the rest of the figure. It almost looks like something's a little off, like it's like maybe something's still showing through on it, or something's just not quite there. And hey, you know what? You might be saying, why, it's this interesting buckle here. Will it pop in or won't it? I don't know. Let's tune in next time and find. There it goes. So it does just pop right in there, but that's not what I was referring to. It almost seems like, I don't know. Seems like the paint could have been a little bit better, but I cannot point out a direct issue with it. That's the thing. It's just something that's messing with the eye, I guess. The external undies. These are a little interesting, right? I know it's a bit difficult. This is a leather material. It's very thin, much like what the cape is made out of. But with the seam right there, you can kind of see it bulges out just a little bit where the seams meet. Difficult thing to manage, I'm sure. I'm no maker of clothing. I don't sew things or anything like that. I almost feel like, granted, and with the style, right, the golden age, it kind of had to be this shape. But I think if it had the freedom to rise up a little bit more, we wouldn't have this kind of part where it kind of crumples on itself, and you've got just the weird swim trunks thing going on here where it kind of billows out. But, I mean, not enough to really detract from it. I think it's still very well done. It's very clean lines, the tiny little seams on there. I mean, they did a great job, especially considering what we're working with. And then we've got an excellent split, considering, right? Because we've got this, yes, it is a spandex stretchy suit, but we've seen other ones where this hinders, right? It doesn't want to stretch, but only so far. But you can't get in the way of the bat split, right? There's nothing stopping that. We do have, it feels like, yeah, we've got a little bit of upper thigh rotation right there. And we have, yep, we've got double knee with excellent flexibility, and the costume travels with it. So that I'm happy to see, right? I'm very happy to see that the costume doesn't overstretch and it doesn't hinder the mobility of this. And look, we even have, yeah, we have full on calf rotation, and the boot, the upper part of the boot hides it. It hides that line along with underneath the costume. So that is excellent. And then the transition between the boot and the shoe is very well done. And the shoe does have a little bit of forward, a little bit of back, and just a tiny bit. Like an ankle sprainer, right? I don't know if I would consider that broken. I would consider that enough to be like, oh, okay, that hurts. But yeah, it doesn't quite break. But, you know, the back and forth is there, and a little bit of rotation. You know, you can do it that way. So there we go. And then the other side also, you know, same functionality that we're dealing with there. Same clean lines of everything. But yeah, I mean, so we've now gone through the whole thing. As far as paint apps, there's not much else to look at, right? So we've got the faces, and we looked at those already very cleanly and clearly. So everything's looking good on it. Nothing has really stood out that I would call any kind of deal-breaking issue. Be careful with the hands. They do pop off easily. The shorts do a bit of a swim trunk thing, but I think that's a limitation of the design with it being the golden age. But all in all, I am going to say this, I am thrilled with this investment, especially considering how much wiring we have in this cape. And how many times we see soft goods and it's like, wow, there's an opportunity. This could have used a lot of wire. So it does have a lot of capability for easily billowing out and doing a lot of excellent golden age poses. Speaking of poses, let's see how he stands on his own without hardly any coaxing. There we have it. That is our Mezco 1/12 Collective Golden Age Batman Cape Crusader Edition, and we will be back with some 360 views. All right, here's our 360 view of the Mezco 1/12 scale Golden Age Batman Cape Crusader Edition. Using the stand, one thing I'll throw out there is the foot peg does pop out to make way for the flying piece, I guess is the best way to call it. And it is, as you can see, a very versatile, very limber flying piece, and it does hold very well. Great posability on this figure. The price point is pretty high, but I'm going to say compared to some of the other similar things I've had of other characters, this one is definitely worth it. So if you've been thinking about it, I say go for the investment. You won't be disappointed. I certainly am not. All right. I hope you've enjoyed this closer look at this Golden Age Batman. Well, that about does it. Thank you for checking us out and for joining on this collecting journey, as always. Look for at least 2 new videos each week, if not more. If you got something from today's episode and you haven't already done so, please subscribe and click that like button. It would really help us out, and it would truly mean a lot to me. If you'd like to see some more videos, there are a couple of quick links on your screen right now for you to check out. But no matter what, as always, thank you for taking the time. And remember, we are all in this world of collecting together. Let's look out for each other. Thanks.